The proposed Consumer Financial Protection Agency embodies the notions of behaviorally informed regulation that you wrote about in an article published in October of last year. The premise of that article, as I understood it, was that, and I'll quote, individuals consistently make choices that they themselves agree diminish their own well-being in significant ways, end quote. That was the article. This dim view of the capabilities of the average American contrasts with the author's belief that, as we understood it, that bureaucrats are capable of discerning what financial products and services would maximize the well-being of individuals that they don't even know. Why do you believe that bureaucrats working for a consumer financial products agency would be able to make better decisions than American consumers themselves?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to make clear that that is not my view. In the first case...
Was that in this article?
The quote is in the article, but the material that followed that you articulated was not in the article. Yeah. So the material that followed is the point that I would say is not my view. I would say it in two particular respects. One is I think the common human failings that we identified in the article are not about us versus them. They're common human failings that all of us have. All of us make mistakes in our daily lives. I get overdrafted.
We learn from those mistakes, don't we?
We do learn from those mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes are quite costly. But we all make them is the only point. I wasn't trying to say, I'm not speaking for you, sir, but I know I make those mistakes all the time.
Probably make more. Go ahead.
So just to be clear on that. So these are mistakes that I make at least, and that other people make, and that are common mistakes. And our idea in the legislation is not to prevent people from making mistakes. It's to make it easier for them to avoid mistakes. Just easier for them to avoid mistakes. So if you have a product that people can't understand, then we need to figure out a way of making it easier for them to understand. I
agree with that.
And Mr. Shelby, I know you worked very hard on the credit card legislation to make sure that credit card products and services are offered in a transparent way. So, and to let people know the consequences of their financial decisions for the cost of making those choices. And that's exactly the kind of approach that's embodied in this legislation.
Is your premise basically trying to take risk out of a marketplace? And if there's no risk, there is no marketplace, is it?
Sir, I think that risk and innovation are central to our financial system.
We benefit from it, don't we?
We at times benefit from it and at times have costs from it, and on balance, financial innovation and risk-taking are central to our system. Okay. What we're talking about here is not eliminating risk, certainly not eliminating financial innovation, quite the contrary. I think those are central concepts. But we have to see that happen on a level playing field with high standards so that people are competing based on price and quality and not consumer confusion.
The board of the consumer, the composition of the board, disturbing. The board, the proposal of the Consumer Financial Protection Agency would include the director of the National Bank Supervisor and 4 members of the President's choosing. There's no limit on the number of members who are from the same political party. This contrasts, as you well know, with the limits on the composition of both the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Why did you choose such a politically biased construct at this point, knowing that would raise red flags?
Senator Shelby, I would not describe it as politically biased in any way. In fact, it is designed to be not political. So there is not a identification of parties with respect to those matters. And the
don't
board...
say that, but that's what the result would be.
And if you look, for example, Mr. Shelby, at the Federal Reserve Board, we see a balanced range of individuals on the Federal Reserve Board without a particular requirement of party identification.
I'd like to just restate a request I made in my opening statement. I'm sure the administration used a great deal of detailed data. You know, you had to, in analysis that led to this proposal, because we would do this too. would you please provide that data and your analysis of that data to the committee, not just to me, but the chairman, all of us, so that staff, we could, both sides, we can use in our effort to evaluate your proposal. In other words, look at your data, evaluate it, weigh it, because we might agree with it, we might not. Would you do that?
We'd be happy to work with the committee to provide whatever information would be available and useful to you.
You state, Mr. Secretary, repeatedly that the status quo is not acceptable. Of course, things are changing every day in the marketplace, as we know. And the need for a new independent consumer protection regime could not be clearer. In addition, you state, quote, that banks can choose the least restrictive supervisor among several banking supervisors. Yet the administration leaves in place in their overall proposal exactly that fragmented system for prudential supervision, 4 or 5 regulators. Why is it that we must, and why would you propose only one agency responsible for consumer protection, but 4 federal banking agencies is entirely appropriate for safety and soundness regulation of our system? Why would you do that if you're going to have the other? If we had one prudential banking regulator, you could draw the analogy, but I don't know how you do it here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our view was that in the context of prudential supervision and the arbitrage that we had seen on the prudential side, that we could effectively deal with that problem by merging the OCC and the OTS into a new national bank supervisor and eliminating the thrift charter, eliminating the remaining distinctions between state member banks, state non-member banks, and national banks, and requiring a series of protections against charter conversion in the event that there were pending enforcement matters, pending problems at any of the institutions. It is not, I would agree, a perfect answer to that question. And in the context of the Consumer Financial Protection Agency, the problems that we saw were so pervasive, the basic structural problems so severe, the extent of mission conflict and mission confusion so strong, that we felt the only real answer there was a Consumer Financial Protection Agency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Senator Menendez. Hey, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, in a panel that will follow you,